Hey guys, it's Carl. Check out this laptop beside me. I've been so stoked to check it out. It's the Lenovo YogaBook 9i, which came out earlier in the year at CES. I know that some people had pre-production models, some developer units. This is full-on production. So I have the OG box with me. I did a full unboxing. This is what is selling at retail. And kind of from the image here, you can see that this laptop has two screens on it, and it isn't something that detaches separately. I know that we've seen a couple of those in the past. This is full on a laptop on its own. So it's a full clamshell. You can see here it's got two, obviously, laptop sides, and it opens into two screens. And if we kind of push the accessories away, it's pretty much a dual screen laptop on its own. And the nice thing about these accessories, which, like I mentioned, come inside the box, we've got three of them. We have this little flip case cover, a detachable Bluetooth keyboard, and of course, a little stylus. I think all three of them make the experience of the 9i, but you can also choose the ones that kind of fit into your workflow. So like I said, if you have none, this comes as a fully functional laptop. It's got two OLED 13.3-inch displays. They're 2.8K. So if you wanted to use this as a traditional laptop, it's got some pretty cool features built into the lower screen. Like, for example, I can tap with 8 fingers, and now I've got a full virtual keyboard. I wouldn't say it's the most comfortable typing experience. It takes a bit of time to get used to typing on a full flat panel. There's no tactile feedback, but there is a bit of haptics, and this bottom portion of the display acts as an entire trackpad, and it actually has two buttons which work. There is a bit of clickability in this, and it actually feels like you're pressing a trackpad, and palm rejection is half decent to actually type. But if you want to actually type away and be productive, that's where this keyboard combo kind of falls into place. Like I said, it's Bluetooth enabled, and it kind of snaps right on top of the display, and the display will recognize that the keyboard is on it, and you'll automatically get the bottom portion, like I said, to be a full trackpad. So now you can type away. For example, you're cranking out emails. The typing experience on this is a lot better. I will say though, there is a tiny bit of wiggle, which I don't really like. You can choose to have the keyboard, I guess, separately, but I guess it's kind of just floating in free space. And I think that's where the second combo, this little cover, comes into play. You kind of just simply fold it up like a bit of origami, and now it becomes a stand. And this is where I think this laptop becomes super dope. So you have a full two-panel display, and this is where the keyboard kind of snaps into place magnetically. Now you can use this as a dual 13.3-inch display keyboard slash computer. And this is where the 9i really shines. So depending on what you do, so say if you're a student, you're say typing an essay on the top screen, you're watching some lecture notes on the bottom, or if you're using the stylus, you can rewatch a lecture, you can jot down notes on the bottom. More likely, you're probably watching a YouTube video, some sort of content up top and working on some work on the bottom. If you switch it to portrait orientation, you can imagine if you're a software developer, if you're coding, how handy it is to have two vertical screens. And really, it's kind of endless what your productivity or use case is. So I did initially game on this. I just wanted to test this out. For example, I had some Fall Guys going on up top, and I was watching a stream. So if you're really a big tryhard, you could even stream snipe if that's your thing. But imagine just being able to carry around something like this in a 13.3-inch form factor. It's super thin too, and you can fold up all the accessories pretty easily, and this handily fits into any pack. This is such a small form factor, and I know I've seen external displays that you can kind of jank on or kind of bolt on to existing laptops that never look as good. They're never as sleek. This is kind of like a one bundle form factor, which I think is super, super dope. So if we actually look around the design, so of course we've got, Lenovo's Yoga branding up top. It's in this really nice like gunmetal blue, silverish finish, both on the top and the bottom. Of course, we've got the chrome trimmings around the side. So ports-wise, I/O, we've got 3 USB-C ports, Thunderbolt 4. We've got the on and off button and kill camera switch, and that's pretty much all of the I/O. And also with the ports, I wish that all 3 of them weren't further up the laptop, because when you put it in the dual screen mode, when you're charging it, the USB-C cable kind of just hangs off of the side on top. If one port was lower, I think it would just keep the cable management game a bit cleaner. The hinge mechanism on this, which kind of really makes this laptop work in the different form factors, is super solid. It's nice nice and sturdy. You don't have unnecessary wobble, and it does have a Bowers & Wilkins speaker built in, which is a very decent sounding speaker. So media experience when you're watching, say, movies, I still probably wouldn't recommend watching one across the entire 2 screens, just kind of keep it to one. It sounds really, really good. And this little ridge here does have a 5-megapixel camera built in. And of course that ridge is to help open and close the laptop. And like I said, when you have it in this little dual screen mode, you've got some cool functionality to move around the different windows. So for example, tapping and holding, I can actually bring this down to the bottom. If I drag and hold, I can kind of position it into a certain corner on the screen, and I can kind of choose which quadrant that I want to place that in. If I'm using this in the laptop orientation, if I'm using the virtual keyboard or the physical one, you actually have this nice little bar which can display some info. So for example, I'm not signed into Outlook now, but I have that over on the left-hand side. I've got the news on the right. There's also a 5-finger tap, which gives you waterfall mode, so you can have all the information continuously displaying on both devices, so you can kind of scroll through an entire web page. And in terms of the actual specs, I know that I've been kind of going on around the dual display functionality, as that's kind of the highlight of this, but it is rocking the latest i7. It's got 16 gigs of RAM, no dedicated GPU, so I wouldn't say for a gaming you can, you know, crush any AAA titles, but for some basic gaming, like I said, I was playing some Fall Guys, that was running at a pretty decent frame rate. It isn't really meant for that. Don't expect to edit or crunch 4K video on this. It's really meant for productivity and to utilize both screens. Lenovo claims you can get around 7 hours of battery life. Keep in mind that both of these screens do sap some pretty big batteries since they're both OLED. They're both obviously really large. But overall, it's been such a solid and polished device, more so than I thought, but don't get me wrong, there's still some minor hiccups when I'm trying to move things from one screen to the other. It isn't obviously perfect. Like I said, there's a bit of unnecessary wiggle with the keyboard. Typing on a full virtual keyboard still feels a bit weird. And obviously using the 2 screens, a ton of gestures, using the virtual keyboard, this just attracts a ton of fingerprints. You can't get around that. But for its overall form factor, it's just around 3 pounds. And since it's a yoga book, you can of course use this in tent mode. This hinge goes 360 degrees all the way around. I'd say the one thing to consider, paying for a all-in-one device like this, you're gonna have to spend around 2,000 bucks US. It's pricey, but I don't think there's anything else like this on the market. So definitely worth checking out. Like I said, full retail units, you can grab them now. Check the link down below, and hope you guys enjoyed this review. This is definitely the coolest laptop that I've checked out so far this year. So shout outs to you, Lenovo, for kind of pushing the boundaries on what we can do with laptops and screens. I'll catch you in one of my next vids. Peace.